Who is the richest person on Earth right now? Well, we all know the top three are Elon Musk, Larry Page, and Jeff Bezos, but they're not the richest people in history. The richest person in history's net worth is estimated to be around $160 trillion in today's money, and that makes him approximately 144.14 times richer than Elon Musk. And he lived over 700 years ago. Rather than having a tech company or whatever it is Elon actually does, the richest person in history ruled a prosperous empire and has a legacy of extreme generosity. Hello and welcome to the channel Superflare 5000. I am your host Galileo, and today I'm going to be talking about one of the greatest rulers in one of the greatest empires in Africa's history, Mansa Musa I and the Mali Empire. Mansa Musa is famous not only for being a symbol of Mali's golden age, but his pilgrimage to Mecca, and also for building education in religious centers all across his empire. He turned Mali into a prosperous trading center, which made him incredibly wealthy, but he also encouraged learning, study, and worship through his buildings of mosques, schools, universities, and libraries, most recognizably Djinguereber in Timbuktu. Mansa Musa's legacy is remembered through the records of Arab chroniclers and through oral traditions. Chronicler Ibn Kathir said Mansa Musa was a handsome young man, and Ibn Habib al-Halabi seemed to agree, describing the king as a young man, brown-skinned, with a pleasant and handsome face. So we can conclude that this guy was probably rather nice to look at and had a lot of gold to spend. Let's first give Mansa Musa some context, briefly exploring the empire he inherited. The Mali Empire was founded by Mansa Musa's great-uncle, Mansa Sunjata Keita, in around the year 1240 after winning a war against the Soso kingdom. Sunjata Keita had a massive, very well-trained army, which meant conquering other lands and people groups was rather easy for them, and it helped expand his empire. Musa was the ninth Mansa, meaning king or emperor, of the realm, and his predecessor was Mansa Abu Bakr II. According to legend, Musa came to the throne after being regent for quite a bit, while Mansa Abu Bakr took a very large fleet of ships and sailed into the Atlantic. The Mansa was never seen again, and Musa became king shortly after they all decided that the old king probably wasn't coming back. However, there are some people who believe it was Musa who devised a plot of some sort to get rid of his predecessor, so that he himself could become king. But this was all in the 14th century, when record-keeping wasn't all that great in that particular region, so we will never likely know what really took place or why. However, once on the throne, Mansa Musa expanded his kingdom even further, almost doubling the territory during his reign. In the end, the Mali Empire was comprised of 24 cities and covered about 2,000 miles of land. The empire's territories included modern-day Mali, parts of Guinea, Senegal, Mauritania, and Gambia. The king expanded his lands even further with his assimilations of the cities of Gao and Timbuktu. Its capital was the city of Niani, and through the trade opportunities brought by the Niger River, the empire became the largest and richest empire in West Africa. It was second in size and power only to the Mongol Empire at the time, which I do want to make a video about one day. After conquering everyone in the surrounding areas, Mansa Musa divided up the empire into provinces and personally chose all the governors, or farbas, and he maintained their loyalty. Apparently, Mansa Musa's army was 100,000 men strong, and he had a 10,000 horse cavalry. The empire's wealth came from mining and trading gold, copper, salt, and ivory, as well as the slave trade. The most seemingly lucrative of these businesses was, of course, the gold trade, which was made easier by the cities along the trade routes like the Niger River. This meant places like Timbuktu became trade hubs, and this caused a boom in economic wealth. As well as the trade, Mansa Musa also taxed people, usually in the form of having the people groups he conquered give him tributes. This, of course, made Mansa Musa an incredibly wealthy man, which he has gone down in history for, especially because of his showcase of said wealth during his travels. Mansa Musa was a devout Muslim, as a lot of his predecessors were. Through trading with Arab merchants, the Mali Empire helped spread Islam through West Africa, And being a Muslim ruler, Mansa Musa made a pilgrimage, or Hajj, to the holiest of Muslim cities, Mecca. Mecca is located in Saudi Arabia, and it's a holy place that people make pilgrimages to even today. Ancient Mecca was slightly different, being an oasis on an old caravan travelling route. It offered a place of rest and respite for travellers. During the Roman and Byzantine eras, however, Mecca developed into a trade centre, but more importantly, the religious centre it is today. So Mansa Musa took the little trip of about 3,000 miles to Mecca between 1324 and 1325, and made several stops, a few months each, along the way. This built long-lasting alliances between nations and meant that Mansa Musa could show off his wealth. The most famous of the accounts of this journey was from his visit to Cairo in Egypt. Mansa Musa and his entourage caused quite a stir as they passed through Egypt. They were apparently quite the sensation. Even the Sultan Al-Malik al-Nasir was shocked by his wealth, especially when Mansa Musa apparently gifted him 50,000 gold dinars as a first meeting gift. Mansa Musa's entourage was described by some accounts as including 60,000 men, which were made up of his entire royal court, soldiers and entertainers. He apparently had 12,000 slaves and servants along for the trip, who all wore fancy expensive Persian silks and held staffs of gold. There were thousands of animals too, like livestock, and about 100 camels who all apparently carried 135 kilograms of gold dust each. There were camels also carrying food and textiles, along with horses carrying the soldiers who held the banners of the king. Is any of this true? I think some of it is, but I think some details and numbers may be exaggerations, but there are many accounts covering the same visit describing similar sights. Apparently, the king and his people overspent so much in the marketplaces they went into debt and even caused the value of gold in the city to plummet 20%, which Cairo didn't recover from for like 12 years after the Mansa left. This overspending was not only caused by the king's desire to flaunt his own wealth, but the fact that the merchants in Egypt took the opportunity to upball their prices upon the arrival of these tourists. A tale as old as time, that one. After his stop in Cairo, Mansa Musa and his people stopped in Arabia, where the king bought up a bunch of land so the future pilgrims of his empire could have a place to stay on their way to Mecca. In Arabia, Mansa Musa was inspired by all the holy sites there and decided that when they left Mecca, they would take some scholars and architects back to the Mali Empire with them. When the king returned to his empire after his pilgrimage, he set about building universities, libraries, mosques and Quranic schools across his empire. Mansa Musa encouraged Islamic learning and education, so he brought back Arab scholars and books from his travels to help teach his people. There's a legend that said he built a new mosque every Friday, but that obviously might not be true in the slightest. Timbuktu is the most iconic of these places, as Jingareba Mosque was built to make Timbuktu the empire's own holy city. The building is still used as a mosque to this day. The building's construction was organised by famous architect and scholar Abu Ishaq al-Sahili. He was apparently paid with 200 kilograms of gold and a few hundred slaves, along with a strip of land along the Niger River. Its construction was completed in 1330, and it's made of wooden stick-like beams, beaten sand, mud bricks and straw because, well, there's a lack of stone out there in the desert. Now, because this building is basically just made of mud, people have been renovating it for centuries. Every year or a few, people would pack more mud onto the outside layer to preserve it from the erosion the wind and rain caused. People still do this to this day, and that's why it's still standing. Its preservation efforts are funded by the UNESCO, who made it a World Heritage Site in 1988. In about 1337, after solidifying the Mali Empire as a place of wealth, culture and learning, the Mansa of Mali's golden age died. Now, how he died, we don't know, since the scarcity of written records keeps his life fairly shrouded in mystery, all things considered. He could have died of old age, but he was only apparently like 57 when he did. Maybe it was illness, or even murder, but we will never know. He was succeeded by his son, Mansa Maga, but politically the empire began to crumble. Many regional governors and chiefs held quite a lot of power despite their standing, and butt heads with the ruling power more often than not. This led to a rather divided and fragmented political landscape and gradually crumbled the empire. There's a lot of things a ruler of such a big empire needs to maintain: alliances, external and internal, the economy, the trade, stability, and maintaining the peace between so many of the diverse groups who make up your empire. The Mali Empire took about a century to fall after Mansa Musa's death. The political instability meant that nobody was sustaining the institutions that Musa had built during his reign. And so everything just started falling apart. Ibn Khaldun, the best-known chronicler of the Mali Empire during Mansa Musa's reign, described the king as an upright man and a great king, and he also said that tales of his justice are still told. The chronicler and his records will keep Mansa Musa's legacy known for years to come. Mansa Musa was not only a diplomatic and generous king, but a scholar in his own right, the symbol of a golden age of an empire long gone and a man of extreme riches. He expanded his empire, ensured prosperous trade, brought culture and learning to his kingdom, and built places of education and religious worship. When the Europeans learned of his famous travels and the tales chroniclers told of Mansa Musa's big spending and general splendor, they sent explorers out to the empire to secure some of that Mali Empire gold. And we know historical Europeans will do what historical Europeans do best and stick their noses into other people's gold piles. The one good thing that came out of the Europeans knowing about the king was that he was drawn into the Catalan Atlas by Abraham Crescus in 1375. This map of the world, so to speak, was the first detailed map of West Africa by the Europeans. Mansa Musa is depicted on the map sitting on a throne with a gold crown, carrying a scepter, and holding what appears to be an orb of gold. Lack of written records mean, realistically, we don't know very much about him. Many tales may just be tales. We can't trust every source. But thanks to the chroniclers of old, we know what people thought of him and what he got up to on his famed travels. Mansa Musa was the greatest ruler in West African history and ruled over the second largest empire of the medieval world, and his culturally significant legacy of being the wealthiest man in history will be remembered. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you learned something new today. I have listed all my sources in the description for you if you wish to read more about the topics I covered. And yes, I have cited Wikipedia. I like it for background information. It's a good source, okay? Anyway, I hope you all have wonderful days and nights, and I hope to see you all in the next video.